Welcome, accelerators. I hope you're having a great Thursday. We've got some good questions here from the team: how to grow sales, when to make the jump from being an independent person to hiring your first bookkeeper, your first sales. Like, how do you make those steps? So really looking forward to answering these questions for you and trying to give you guys the ideas that really help me grow to that seven-figure business. It didn't happen overnight. It definitely was just a couple things that really made the difference. So first question is, how important is it for an entrepreneur to learn sales skills in order to start or begin growing a company? I definitely think it's the number one thing you need to do to start growing a company is learning sales skills. So really getting out there, meeting people, and really be able to sell them on your ideas, your work, what you've done in the past, and what you can do for them, right? So number one thing you should work on every single day are your sales skills. It doesn't matter if you're B2B, B2C, how you sell at scale is going to be super important, right? So I'd start to follow some great salespeople. Now, there's some who talk a great talk and haven't sold the way your customer wants to be sold. So there's people like Gary Vee out there. Follow him, but take it with a grain of salt. He sold a lot of wine, right? And he sold a lot of people on him to doing speaking engagements. And he has sold some web development services. It doesn't mean he's going to sell the same way to your customers, right? So choose the sales gurus carefully, right? Grab the books that really make a difference for you, right? So there's the Little Red Book of Selling. There's dozens of great sales books. Look them up on Amazon. There's probably two top three ones that I would look for. But really, the best skill you can ever have is making conversation with people and engaging with people, right? So really practicing every single day. If you're in line at Starbucks, finding out what somebody does beside you, learning about them, asking better questions makes you a better salesperson. So really learn how to ask better questions. You can try the ABC, always be closing, but really asking questions, uncovering needs will really help you find out why somebody's going to buy or not, if they have a budget to buy, and what it's going to take to get and win their business. So always be learning as much you can on the sales front. Go to the library. I'd say learn from books first, and then start to invest in other sales processes as you become more advanced. I even took a Tony Robbins seminar, Unleash the Power Within, to see his sales funnel. I didn't go on and buy his tens of thousands of dollars products, but look at people's sales funnels, sign up for things, see how they try and sell to you, right? Look at email newsletters from your competitors, sign up, see what other people are doing. So really learn the sales methodology of your competitors and people who've grown really well in your space, and put it in your calendar. What am I going to do for the next 90 days to learn better sales skills? What am I going to do tomorrow, today? What is my most important daily outcome? My MIDO, as some people say. What is my most important daily outcome? And if it's to learn or to try and sell, you really got to schedule that time. Here's where I'm going to pick up the phone and call 3 prospects. Or here's where I'm going to pick up the phone and call 10 prospects, or I'm going to go out and meet these people. I'm going to drop in at their work. There's some places where you can just drop in and sell to people, which is amazing. Other ones, they might beat you off with a stick, as you know, depending on where you are in the country. Next question is, how soon in my business should I start tracking my numbers and software like QuickBooks? And at what point should I hire a bookkeeper or just keep doing it myself? So I think if you're selling $1,000 a month, you should really get a bookkeeper, unless your background is in numbers, right? Unless it's one of the things you like to do. If you're not passionate about it, I'd outsource something as soon as you can. I outsourced my bookkeeping as soon as I made my first sale, basically, right? So even doing invoicing, yeah, there's lots of great ways to set it up, and using SaaS services, QuickBooks or zero, any number of these packages. But if you want to really grow your company, once you're getting that $1,000 a month repeatable, if you can work with a bookkeeper and just say, hey, I'm going to budget $100 a month. Can you take on my invoicing or take on my bookkeeping? And when I scale to $5,000 a month, we can up the fee that you're charging me. So work with a bookkeeper, find somebody who's flexible. You really want to have a bookkeeper, even to you scale to probably $1 million, because if you hire somebody dedicated for that position, it's going to cost you anywhere between $50,000 and $100,000 a year, depending on where you live in the country. And if they get sick, you need somebody to take over. So a good bookkeeper, a nice small bookkeeper, will have 2 to 3 bookkeepers who work with them. And if they get sick, you can still do your payroll. You can still do your invoicing. Yeah, that's my advice. But definitely, try and grow your business so you're getting somebody else to help out on those major things you're not strong on. What value does a mentor bring to me as a business owner? I hear that having business mentors can be integral to being an entrepreneur as I grow my business. And this person wants to know my thoughts on why this is. So, a mentor is so key, and multiple mentors are very key in growing a business. So, finding people who are in similar businesses are important. I've got a group of 10 kind of co-mentors. Some of them have businesses that do 5, 10 times as much as me, and some of them do a little bit less, but they're in the same space, right? So I'd find one mentor at least who's in the same space. They might be across the country. They might be in the same neighborhood, but just be in a different kind of space, or starting or planning to wind down. Super important to have a mentor. So I would reach out, just practice your sales, right? Approach people by email, connect with them on LinkedIn, ask to buy them a coffee, and then say, hey, I'm looking for a mentor. I'd love to meet with you once a month. I'll buy you lunch. I'll come prepared, and really have 3 questions that really kind of help me grow the business and help you kind of share your insight, because you're an amazing person in this space. Really think about complimenting them and give back to them a little bit. Say, I'll buy you lunch, right? And they might end up paying for lunch. You never know what will happen with these mentors. But I would definitely find at least one mentor in your space, and one business mentor in general as well, right? Who's probably in a different stage in their career and really wants to give back. And yeah, the big thing that I'd say is show up prepared, bring something new that's not even related to your business, right? So if there's something new happening in AI and you're really learning about that, share that information with them. So I would come to every meeting with an insight out in the market that they're interested in, and then 2 things that kind of are challenges and stuff that you really like to work through there with them. And you got to think about it. If somebody has a board of directors, they're paying them every quarter to come to a board meeting and really provide insight, and they can make or break your company. And you really got to start thinking, when am I going to grow the company, right? And starting with mentors is ability to approach more senior people who can then contribute to your company, right? So I would start looking for mentors early. There's some amazing ones in local networks, but then also, ask mentors who you see in your community and across the country in your industry. Super key. I've got some amazing people that I've worked with for years, and yeah, just keep asking. Find a mentor or 3. If revenue from my business isn't making me enough money, do you think it's okay to have a side hustle or a side job to keep money coming in while I'm building my revenues? Yeah, I definitely think that's okay. But what would allow you to go all in, right? And I've shared this story before. What I did when I was starting my company is I sold my truck, and it was a nice blue Chevy, but the maintenance costs were getting quite up there, right? And I was able to finance a car at 0% interest and 0% down, and I was able to lower my gas bill and eliminate my maintenance bill because this new car had a warranty. And I was able to put, I don't know, 5, 8 grand in my pocket. And I don't know what your run rate is, what you're spending per month on your company and your personal costs, but that could give you 2 months, right? And if you're all in on your company, could you get to that point where it's self-supporting? Also, if your side hustle or your part-time job supports you learning and getting to know more about the industry and the market you want to be in, that's a good thing too, right? I would just be careful. Don't get into a job or a side hustle that really takes away. I see so many people with side hustles who are in such good careers. They're making 120, 150,000, and I'm like, why are you doing this multi-level marketing side hustle that I know is not going to make you a ton of money? So be careful. If it's a multi-level marketing thing, you can actually find out what percentage of the people who are doing that are actually making 500 a month or 1,000 a month or 2,000 a month. And if 95% of them are making less than 500 a month, that side hustle is not going to have a ton of value. But a job that supports you learning, right? So a sales job, right? If you're having to sell to people every single day at a car lot or as a realtor, it can help you launch your career into selling something else at a bigger scale, right? And what does that job provide as far as training and support? You know, they might be a great job. It starts at minimum wage, but they've got great sales training. You get to learn the business methodology that they're using that you can transfer. Then definitely do it. But just make sure it's serving you and it's not a ball and chain, right? If you're working 50 hours, it's hard to run a business on the side. What is the one thing you wish you'd known about how hard it would be to be a business owner when you started? And what did you do to overcome it? So, probably the one thing that I wish I'd known is that the people around you are going to have to be prepared for disappointment, or you're going to have to be willing to make sacrifices in your company to go all in. And what I mean by that is there's some days you're going to have to work till midnight. And I made the decision one time with my partner, the woman I loved at the time, to continue to work well into the evening. And she was super disappointed. And that I did not consider her. I said, I'm going to try and get home, try and get home. And by the time I made it home, she was devastated, right? Saying that I didn't appreciate her. And, looking back on that, I didn't handle it well, right? It was probably something I could have left to the next day, but also the people around you are going to have to know there are going to be times when you have to go that extra mile. I've traveled to about 10 countries with my work. I've gone on sales trips that were 5,000 miles, driving and, living out of a vehicle to go see people, or, cheap hotels, right? There's sacrifices you're going to have to make, and you need to know that the people around you are going to be okay with those sacrifices. So my wife now, she knows I'm going to have to go on the road sometimes. As long as I let her know in advance, she's pretty good with that. And we've got therapy as well, right? So make sure the people around you are resilient and they know what sort of sacrifices you're going to have to make as a business owner to really push, right? There might be risk you're going to have to take financially as well. And some people aren't comfortable with that, right? So really have those discussions with people and know that there's going to be times when you're going to go all in, and the people around you might not understand it, but hopefully they will when you come out the other side, or if you fail and you have to start again, because that's part of being an entrepreneur. So one of the members has said they spent too much time doing admin work and producing and delivering the products for the customers, and revenues are suffering. How do I get more sales when I don't have the time to go out and network and do all the selling activities? Yeah, so huge trade-off on admin and delivery versus sales, right? So, I'd really have to do a bit of an inventory there, right? So if your inventory and your cost of doing the admin work So the cost of producing your goods is too much to not allow a salesperson. It might be that there's a pricing problem, right? So are you better at producing the work and doing the admin work, or better at doing the selling? And you're going to have to hire somebody eventually to do one of those two roles, right? So are you charging enough to have somebody take on the admin work? Or what of the menial tasks can you have that other people can take on? One of the things I did is I went to a shared office space, and it wasn't one of the big ones, WeWork or Regis. It was a smaller one, and they offered free phone answering with the rent, the monthly rent. So I had a bit of admin help, and they also provided bookkeeping help, right? So for I don't know, it was less than $1,000. I had bookkeeping help and I had phone answering. And if you hired a full-time admin, they're a lot more than $1,000 a month. So what can you kind of carve off, right? So if you can carve off something using a virtual assistant part-time, or somebody you know, a family member, a summer student, an intern. I always recommend paying interns, but I know there's some places where interns work for free. Whatever you can do to kind of get over that hump. Don't mislead people. But if you can get somebody on a work subsidy to help you with that admin work, check around with your local employment office, see if there's any interns or paid subsidies to hire people who are unemployed, and really see if you can take things off your plate. Things that you're not really good at, like on the admin side, I'm terrible. So I've always hired admin people. It's really helped me to have somebody more organized than me. So I hope that's helpful. Yeah, and automate some of your sales stuff, right? Really look at some automation. See if you can um, get a mailing list. See if you can use Sales Navigator. See if you can use some sort of program that helps you do more sales and be more productive. Lots of stuff coming down the pipe. Don't overpay for it, right? But definitely willing to try things out. AppSumo is great. And lots of sales tools that have a one-time fee. There's one that we're still using. It's video. It does video capture like this, but you can then email it, send it to a client. One-time fee, I think it was 50 or 150 bucks. And we have 6 licenses. So we can, instead of going out to meet with a client and get face-to-face, I can send them a quick video. And it's like, hey, Dave, we're in the headhunting business, and I see you've got this opening for this really challenging role. We've filled 3 like that in the last quarter. Would love to jump on a quick call with you and talk about it. And you know what? You could even do intros like that to Dave and Chris, and find 50 Daves and Chris across the country and send out a quick intro. It's like, hey, Dave, I'm a headhunter who's been really successful over the last quarter, and we've seen some really great management talent that I think could really help your business. And you can set it out to 50 people at scale, and they think you've tailored it to them. So lots of opportunities to kind of up the productivity on the sales side or outsource it on the admin side, I think. Next question. I've started to hire my first few team members. It seems difficult to get people to be as passionate about my business as I am. How do you get people to believe in your company as much as I do in order to grow? So a company vision is super important, right? So I run under EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. There's other systems out there, but having a one-page business plan for a small business is super important. And there should be kind of a 90-day goal, and I would think like a 1 year and a 3-year goal. So where do we want to go? And there's something called a big, hairy, audacious goal, or a big BHAG, which you can learn about. There's definitely lots of books on that. But what I'd like to say is, where do we want to be in 3 years? And where does that person that you're working with fit in that? So you could say, listen, in 3 years, we're going to grow to 7 figures. We're going to have 2 managers, and we're going to have 2 team leaders, and we're going to have a ton of business across the country. And our goal is to have benefits, healthcare for everybody, and really be making about 50,000 per month, whatever those revenue goals. So understand the revenue goals, but also the amount of people you're servicing or the impact you're going to have. Our goal is to help 10,000 people per year find better jobs and make more money. It's quantifiable. They can see it 3 years down the road, and they can see where we're going to grow, right? So have a one-page business plan and, really state where you want to go in 90 days, 1 year, and 3 years, right? You don't have to have every detail fleshed out, but you can say, listen, in 90 days, I want to be at 6 figures. We want to be at the $500,000 mark. And in 3 years, we want to be at 7 figures at the $2.1 million mark. And we're going to grow the team, and there'll be opportunities for raises and advent promotions for people, right? So paint that picture, revisit it every 90 days, and bring them in. Grab them for a lunch. And if you don't want a big budget, just get sandwiches delivered. People really love that. Kind of that extra thing where it's like, oh, I didn't have to buy lunch today. One of my best employees ever, she said her husband was super jealous whenever we did a barbecue on Fridays, right? So we were committed to providing some food just once a week or even once a month. And it was more commitment than some other employers had shown them. So they were committed in return to us. So lots of ways you can get people more committed, but having a vision and adding some perks, right? You don't need the world's biggest Christmas party, but if you recognize people and you give them a little extra, they'll go that extra mile for you. All right, so the next question is about a team member who keeps on coming to the owner for guidance on every single decision. How do you make somebody start thinking for themselves and not having to come to you for everything? As entrepreneurs, we have so much to do, and we just really want people to do their job. So how do you get somebody to make their own decisions? So if you could see, I'm putting my hands in my pockets. All right. So I'm used to pulling up my sleeves and getting my hands dirty and actually doing some of the work for my team. It's not a good idea. Stopping, taking a drink of your coffee, and saying, what would you do when somebody asks you? What do you think we could do? Who else could you ask? So asking some good questions. So turn it around on them to be able to say, what are you going to do to really make this happen yourselves? And if they can't figure it out on their own, they might not be the right person for that seat in your company. They might be really great at something else within your company, but if they're not able to learn, after you show them once and after you do it with them once, right? By the third time, they should be able to do that on their own, or at least with a little bit of support and guidance, right? Just checking back less, right? So are they growing and learning? But if they're always coming back to you and asking how to do this within your CRM, your customer relationship management system, or always asking how to do the same thing out in the field or with a customer, they're not learning and they're not growing. And you might need to replace them with somebody who can. So, try those two techniques. Turn it back on them. Say, well, what do you think you should do? Don't get up and say, I'm really going to have you figure this out yourself. I'm working on the company vision today. Can you let me know at 3:00 if you still haven't found a solution, right? What else do you need to do your job, right? It might be that they need some training. There's amazing cheap and free training out there, right? So there's free training platforms and there's paid training platforms. LinkedIn has a huge training platform. And if you buy one of their $30 or $40, $50 packages, there's amazing training on all numbers of areas: sales, marketing, AI, lots of ways people can get training. So don't go out and look for that training. Ask them what they need, because you really need them to start to take ownership of their job, right? they're getting paid 15 to 40 bucks an hour or whatever it is. And as part of that, they need to come prepared to work, have ways to learn and grow. So really push it back on them, ask some good questions, and see if they can step up their game. Or can you find somebody else who will step up their game instead of them? So, hate to be harsh, but hiring and firing is a big part of being an entrepreneur. How do I figure out how much I should pay myself and how I should pay myself as I'm putting all my money back into the business? Do I pay myself enough to pay my own personal bills, or do I put myself on a steady salary? How how do I know how much to invest back in the company? So this is a really difficult question. I mean, everybody's going to be in their own situation. So when I started the company, we had zero revenue coming in. And when I started to have revenue coming in, I invested everything back into the company until I got to a point where we had a really good contract with a large provider. And I was able to really scale up back to where I was working for somebody else, making, I think it was 80,000. So I was able to pay myself then. Um, as quickly as you can, I would start paying yourself a good amount of money. It sucks being an entrepreneur. Lots of people on TikTok and lots of mentors or lots of influencers are going to say being an entrepreneur is so good. It's tough and you need to get paid. So setting a target of a good income that not only covers your bills and gives you the lifestyle you want is super important. So it doesn't mean you're going to get there right away. You might not get there in year one, but you should get there in year two or year three, right? So what is the minimum to cover your bills? I think is really important, right? Because you really don't want to be stressing about your bills while you're stressing about your company, right? So I would say try and pay yourself enough to cover your bills, right? You don't want to be taking on additional personal debt while you're adding debt to the company and stuff, right? So really get to that point where you're covering your bills, hopefully within 3 months, but definitely within in a year, right? If you're not covering your bills within a year, you got to really do a gut check and say, is this business plan the right one for me? But really, at that 2 year point, you want to be making more than you would be at your own job. And if you continue to invest money in, well past that 90-day, 6 month, 1 year mark, you got to have a gut check. Share your business plan with your mentor, share your business plan with a group like this and say, hey, this is where I'm wanting to get to. Here's where I'm at now. Why isn't this working? Or what can I do to jump so I'm up to that $5,000 a month in revenue so I can actually start to pay myself something, right? You need to have an ROI and see when that return on investment is going to be paid out. I definitely think kind of the 90 days to cover your bills is really a good measurement on whether or not a business is going to be viable and successful. And you can reiterate, it's okay if a business doesn't work out. I've had a business that I worked on for way too long, and I justified it in saying, oh, it was strategic. We're going to, it's going to help us get these sales. But I had to cut it, invested over $1 million and had 0% return on that $1 million because we were never able to make it profitable. And it didn't actually help us scale that much, which I'd hoped. So lots of learning you can do, but try and get your bills covered as soon as you can and set that goal of where it's worth being an entrepreneur. Like if you have to get to that $200,000 income level, might take 3 years, might take 5 years, but cover your bills soon, right? Because you don't want to be accumulating debt in a business and debt personally. That's a recipe for disaster. Watch some Shark Tank episodes about people who put too much money into their business and people like Mark Cuban shaking their head. Don't be that person. All right. Next question. I struggle with confidence. What can I do in my business, my life to be confident so I can close more deals, hire better people, and generally have more confidence to succeed in life? Awesome question. Confidence, there's imposter syndrome. There's so many kind of like, oh, I really want to grow this business, but I'm not like that person on Instagram. I'm not like that person on TikTok. Don't worry. You don't have to be like them. You just got to have you in mind and take care of your own business. So one thing that I think is super important for confidence is finding what lifts you up. So in my case, hugs from my family, hugs from people I love, music, exercise, and being in nature. Those four things lift me up, right? If I had a great indoor soccer game, I scored a goal. I'm not the kind of the top 50% on our team. I'm probably the bottom 25%, but scoring a goal just gives me so much joy. It just kind of ups my confidence, but also exercise, right? So, what are the things that up your confidence, right? It might be education, right? It might be learning something each day. So, grabbing a great book and learning something each day. Um, Small goals, right? Micro goals will give you confidence, right? So you one of the ways you might get confidence is you're better looking and lose weight. Don't worry about being as fit and as perfect looking as the people we see on Instagram or even the hottest person in the office. Choose micro goals that you can work on each day. So one of the things I did is I cut out a pack of sugar in my big coffee every day. Right. So I cut my sugar consumption by 50%, right? Which is going to help on that bottom line down here, right? Cut into zero is great, but just work on the micro things that get you to where you need to go to gain more confidence. One thing you can also do to kind of get a little bit of confidence is a daily ritual such as meditation, or what does Tony Robbins use? He uses incantations, I think it is. It's really some self-talk, and self-talk is super important, right? So there's an old Saturday Night Live special where there was a fellow, I forget his name, but he would look in the mirror and say, "You're good enough, you're smart enough, and people like you." I actually know a great salesman. He's head of sales for Cisco. I think he's a VP. And he used to look in the mirror before he went out in university, in college, look in the mirror and say, "You are a good looking man." And he would give himself the double guns, right? So actually, that self talk was good for him. It helped him with his sales career. So think of good self talk and cut negative self talk out of your life. So every day, maybe start your day with a little journaling with one win. And at the end of every day, start your journaling with one win, right? It might be that you made no sales, but you're able to get past a gatekeeper. It might be that things didn't work out at work, but you had a great thing happen with your family. So look for the wins that help give you confidence. Practice public speaking, right? So lots of challenges you can do, lots of New Year's challenges, but joining a Toastmasters is a great way to get confidence. And one of the things they do is they use the sandwich technique as far as feedback. One positive thing, one thing you can work on, and a second positive thing, right? So being around a group that shares the positive positive affirmations with you. On Fridays, do your celebrations, right? It might be that you didn't hit that revenue goal or make that sale, but any of the things that you did, right? So if you're feeling better on the fitness front, you've improved something, anything, right? So if you got a better car, you got a better computer, you fixed something you thought was broken, just share some successes, kind of keep that going every week, right? So you build your confidence by internally and being around people who also help with your confidence. So find those positive people, pick up the phone and call that person you always know who's positive, right? So don't hang around with losers and negative people. I just got off an interview with somebody and I'm like, man, he's not going to survive his interview if he's as negative as he is now. So I joked with him. I brought him up a little bit. So look for those people who bring up your confidence. Buy them a coffee. If you don't have money to buy them a coffee, bring them a coffee, brew it at home, ask them what they like, and kind of just work with them. Listen to music, listen to good comedians, cut the news out, keep it positive, and I think that'll really help you with your confidence. Look for those wins. Lots of things you can do on a daily basis. I hope that helps all of you. Would love to see some comments below. Keep up the good work and keep on killing it.